A new US president in the White House saw Europe forced to adjust to Donald Trump's America First policies and often unpredictable personality. A number of European leaders stood out in either pushing back on his demands or working alongside him as a so-called Trump whisperer. We look now at which political figures gained influence and popularity in 2025. Hello and welcome to Roundtable. I'm Enda Brady. Now, we've got an end-of-year look back at some of the breakout European leaders of 2025. We start with the Danish Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen. She was thrust into the global spotlight when she stood up to Donald Trump after he tried to buy Greenland, telling him it was not for sale. Frederiksen has also found herself at the centre of Europe's security force, the coalition of the willing, while domestically, the Social Democrat leader has taken a tough stance on immigration. So, what do we really know about the woman leading Denmark? You've spent time around the Danish PM. What's your impression of her as a woman, as a person privately?
She is a tough cookie. She used to say, don't feel pity with me. I'm the prime minister. I have got the power. She said actually this weekend in an interview in my newspaper, she said, and I quote, "I am quite happy that precisely I am the prime minister right now," which means she believes in herself. She knows who she is. She knows the political field. She knows the political play. She has been in politics for more than 30 years. She was right from the beginning a political figure people were looking at. She was young and revolutionary, and back in 2005, they actually tried to make her chairman of the party. She has control over her party, much more than you have seen social democratic leaders have had for many, many years. All the times I've been covering Danish politics, which is quite a lot of years. Of course, she has critics, but not much. And now, when we're in this kind of a crisis, she is like, okay, I go in front. What you hear her saying when she is on the record is of course not the same as she says off the record, because she has to use a more diplomatic tone, but it is kind of the same. She is a political animal right to the bone.
And to you, how important do you think it is for Danish people right now to have a strong leader, given that President Trump has already said he wants Greenland?
I do think that is quite important, and Mette Frederiksen's role here is probably also an example of one of the developments actually in her career. So if we think back of the young Mette Frederiksen, maybe even when she when she became prime minister, she was the youngest prime minister of Denmark ever, but she was maybe not actually so well known for foreign policy. She has traditionally worked with a lot of sort of hardcore welfare state areas, but she has really stepped into the foreign policy scene. It's fair to say that she is one of the leaders in the discussions about Ukraine. When an extra summit was called recently by Macron, it was actually Mette Frederiksen that was representative, not just of Denmark, but of all the Nordic countries, and I believe the Baltic countries as well. So this is clearly a development in her leadership style as well, and I think the Danes are proud of her. Some might say it has come at a convenient time as well, because her government as such has maybe not actually been so popular. So Denmark has a very atypical government for Danish standards. Typically, governments in Denmark represent either the left or the right. But this is actually one of the sort of few attempts in Denmark to form a government that cuts across the political spectrum. And it's not a government that has been hugely popular.
Claire, in your career, you've worked with some significant female leaders like Theresa May, who was British Prime Minister. How do you think that dynamic works with Trump? Does he respect strong female leaders?
I think that remains to be seen. I don't think he quite knows what to do with a strong female representative in front of him. I think he's more interested in Donald Trump and what he says. So I think it will be quite interesting to see now when you have on the European stage, especially, some really strong women. You've got Kaja Kallas in the European Union itself. You've got people like Giorgia Meloni, Mette Frederiksen. You've got Ursula von der Leyen. And suddenly that is going to cause him some problems. He doesn't really know how to deal with them. He is a little bit patronising when it comes to dealing with women, and these are not going to take that. They are very experienced, very, very competent people who understand the world of politics. So they will stand up and say, actually, we're going to move away from this discussion if they don't believe it's going in the right direction for their country or for Europe as a whole. So I think it is interesting. I think he's going to have some problems, but he needs to be able to work with strong women for America's sake as well, because he needs that business across the world.
The Finnish president, Alexander Stubb, hit the headlines this year, not in a high-stakes meeting room, but on a Florida golf course. During the unofficial and surprise visit, he urged the US president to progress talks for a Ukraine peace deal. So, who exactly is Alexander Stubb, and what impact has he had on EU-US relations? They say you should always play to your strengths, and it turns out Alexander Stubb is a very good golfer. So he flew off to America and he played with President Trump, and by all accounts, this was a genius move.
Yes, I would say so. And the little that I understand Stubb and his personal strength is that he's a very relatable, personable person. So I'm not surprised at all that he would use that personality of his also to kind of create those diplomatic relationships.
And Owen, to you, I mean, we've never really seen this before, golf diplomacy. I know we see businessmen meeting and playing golf, but world leaders coming together and playing 18 holes, by all accounts, Trump was very impressed with Stubb.
Well, of course, we've seen this before in Finnish diplomacy. The sauna diplomacy is the more traditional, informal Finnish art of diplomacy. But golf is what Alexander Stubb utilized here. And of course, Alexander Stubb in his early years, late 1980s, early 1990s, went actually on a golf scholarship to Furman University. And he often would play this up. Furman University is in South Carolina. We don't know if Alexander Stubb came out of retirement from golf, because the story goes that he went as a golf scholar and exited Furman University, or graduated from Furman University as a political scientist, and he went on there as a kind of a scholar politician. But I suppose it's an indication that Plan A is not really working this time with Donald Trump. Plan A being that Trump is transactional and you play to his transactions. But we've seen to the tariffs that Trump is actually quite irrational in his protectionist trade policy, and transactional rhetoric doesn't work. So when Plan A doesn't work, you move to Plan B, and that's building up personal ties with the president. Both Alexander Stubb and Donald Trump like golf, and Alexander Stubb, of course, likes that and understands that Southern American mindset. So he's an Atlanticist president in more ways than one.
Henry, to you, I mean, this is probably one of the most important rounds of golf in Finnish history in recent years, isn't it? Trump and Stubb and this relationship, and the American president genuinely being impressed by your leader's prowess.
Well, certainly, as Owen put it, Finland has usually had its own interesting means of diplomacy, one being a sauna, but this what I would call a driver diplomacy. But I think there's two reasons behind such an operation, if we can call it that. One is that Stubb is, when it comes to statecraft, he's not a rookie. We know that he's had a career as a member of the parliament, as a minister, prime minister, foreign minister, a member of the European Parliament, a professor. So he has had decades time to build a very comprehensive network of world leaders. And he's, I would say, one of his best traits is definitely his personal networks. And the other thing being is the realistic approach, in the sense that Finland and the United States have had a very sort of productive past 20, 30 years when it comes to building new ties after the Cold War, when Finland had basically no possibilities to have such a close relationship with the United States. Now we've been building, especially with defense and security on the front lines. And I think, for example, these times that we are living right now, we're talking about Ukraine, Russia, European security, and Finland has a very keen national interest to try to maintain the US committed to European security. And if there are ways that the Finnish president can use his own personal statecraft and abilities and connect them with Finnish national interest in a way that benefits overall European security, I think he's in a very good position to do that.
Elizabeth, my spies tell me that you have run with Alexander Stubb in Central Park in New York. Give us your impression of him as a man then. What were your takeaways?
Yes, this was a long time ago, 10 years ago, when he was visiting New York. And I was back then working for the Consulate General of Finland, and he invited anyone who wanted to join for this morning run in Central Park. And what I gather from there is that is the same kind of the personable, being an ordinary person, even though you are in a position of a lot of power, which I think is something that we need to cultivate more now as we are in this time, really still as a collective coming out of a really dramatic season with what happened with the pandemic and what's happening with Ukraine. And now we're still in a time of disruption. And so this idea of leader as a healer, that's a beautiful concept by Nicholas Yanni. It's something that I see in Stubb, how I view him, is that he brings that the heart and the humanity in how he leads. And I think that's something that will help us usher ourselves to a kind of a new paradigm from what we're right now experiencing with a lot of political and world leaders.
2025 has seen the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's star continue to rise. In Italy, she has brought political and economic stability to the country, but she's also built a close relationship with the US president, earning her the nickname, the Trump Whisperer. She headed to Washington shortly after Trump announced his sweeping tariffs on the infamous Liberation Day. But could she sweet-talk him into a better deal for the European Union? Do you think Giorgia Meloni is Europe's best chance now of getting a deal with Trump? He does seem to admire your Prime Minister.
Giorgia Meloni is for sure our best chance for two reasons. The first is the approach that she have on this type of a problem, which is very pragmatic, very realistic. And I think that a businessman as Trump is like that part of political talking. And second of all, because she's very clear about a long-term view, which is not only how to solve the issue tomorrow, but what we want to build for the next year, for the future. We want to be on this side, or we want to move to other side. Well, we know exactly where we want to be, is with United States, with NATO, with countries that have democracy and freedom, and that's where we want to be. So I think that this meeting, and she will be the first of European leaders that actually can really open a way to talk with Trump.
Elena, you mentioned NATO. Where does Meloni stand on a proposed European army? I mean, where is Italy now in terms of defence?
Well, we are working on arrive to the 2%. That was the things that Italy subscribed with NATO. And we are very focused on understanding what this will mean mean on impact on our economy and our industries. For sure, we know, and that this is one of the things that Fratelli d'Italia put in his political program before Meloni was elected as a president, that for us defense is one of the most important things to have, because it's the only thing that really guarantee the country the freedom, the liberty, and the ability and the capacity to give an answer if someone wanna touch your democracy.
Francesco, over many centuries, Italy's greatest export to America, I guess, was its people. But now that relationship, the trading relationship, is worth $71 billion to Italy. That is how much Italy exports to the United States every year. I mean, these are mind-blowing figures. Meloni has to get this right.
Absolutely, she has to get it right. If she doesn't get it right, but getting it right, remember, means what? That the Americans are going to make an exception of Italy and not an exception of Germany that exports more than Italy. Getting it right is the tricky question. Obviously, she needs to try and persuade Mr. Trump to lower these tariffs. But here, I think she needs to make the case that the president of the European Commission is making. In other words, let's go to zero tariffs. It's a way of calling his bluff there, but I think that Italy will not be able to do this alone. It's clearly in Italy's interest that we come to some kind of negotiated agreement with the United States, simply because of the impact that this would have on Italian pharmaceuticals, on Italian clothing, on Italian vehicles, you name it. There are very few sectors of the Italian economy that wouldn't be affected, and the idea that somehow things Italian are such that we're irreplaceable is perhaps a little bit misplaced. So she has got to try and ensure that she puts the European case that clearly is very, very important for Italy. But she can't, if you like, take Italy out of the EU equation without essentially destroying the European Union as we know it. And that's not going to happen.
And Francesco, just tell me, why do you think Trump likes Meloni so much? We know he admires strong characters, big personalities. She takes no prisoners, this lady.
She doesn't take prisoners. She's a very competent politician who the Italian people understand. Many may not agree with her, but they understand. No, I think that she and Trump are ideological bedfellows. They are essentially nationalists who believe in the idea of Italy first or America first. Remember, she whenever she talks and you listen to her, she talks about the nation, la nazione, which is an interesting way of doing things. So they are basically ideological bedfellows. The only problem is, of course, that what's good for America is not necessarily good for Italy.
And joining us now from Rome, we have Angelica Donati. She's a construction entrepreneur and president of Ance Giovanni. Angelica, if we look at the financial mechanics of this, I mean, this relationship is huge for Italy, isn't it? $71 billion of trade every year. Giorgia Meloni needs to come back with something. She needs to keep President Trump happy.
You're right. Italy is one of the 3 only countries in Europe to have a trade surplus with the US. So obviously the stakes are higher for our country. And I guess that has been very clear also on the way markets responded. Italian markets tanked more than other European markets over the past turbulent few days. But I think it's very important for us to remember that though, of course, any kind of direct contact with President Trump by European presidents is good. It's great to establish personal rapport and to bring forward single country issues. President Macron did the same thing for France a few weeks ago. And it's important to have constructive dialogue. What is essential for us all to remember is that no single European country can negotiate effectively with the US on a standalone basis. The only strength Europe has is in its numbers. We are a 650 million person market. We are the biggest single trading partner the US has if we're taking globally. Individually, I wouldn't say we don't count because we still count individually, but our power is less.
Giorgia Meloni has also forged a good relationship with the Albanian Prime Minister Edi Rama. He's a figure as colourful and complex as the country he transformed. This year, he won a record fourth term in office. Rama went on to host EU leaders at a summit, showing his quirky side with AI-generated baby versions of those in attendance. So, who is Edi Rama and how is he transforming Albania? Talk to me then about the relationship between Albania and Italy, because this seems to be a big love-in anytime we see Edi Rama with Giorgia Meloni, him getting down on one knee for her birthday. Albania does seem to have a very beautiful relationship with the Italians.
No, I mean, Albania has a lot of partnership with a lot of countries, but with Italy, because it is very close with the borders, it is only the Adriatic Sea that separates us, it has a special relationship which was felt since from the beginning of the transition in Albania from the democratic changes in 1991. Another one bridge that is very important to bring in our mind it is that already in Italy, there are a lot of Albanian immigration, which 250,000 of them are already Italian citizens, and they are contributing to the economy of the country. Another 500,000, they are legal with documents legalized from a lot of time. Do not forget that the Albanians, they are the country which got the highest number from Italian citizenship last year. 33,000 Albanians, they became Italians.
Thanks, Dorian. Febi, the timeline for joining the EU, 5 years. That's what Edi Rama says. He has promised this to the Albanian people by 2030. Is that possible?
It looks possible, although I have my doubts. Montenegro and Albania leading towards the EU. Serbia is stagnating. North Macedonia, Serbia is stagnating due to Kosovo. North Macedonia issues with Bulgaria. Kosovo issues with Serbia. It is possible, as Macron on the EU has said, that the old chapters will be closed by 2017. So Albania just started to open the chapters, which are requirement by the EU. So many laws, and what is important as well, there is special structure, anti-corruption special structure in Albania, which has done a great job, has arrested the mayor of Tirana, of capital, has arrested the former president and prime minister Ilir Meta. So that is, I think, one of the things which is putting into prime steps Albania in comparison to Serbia or other places which they are not moving into fighting the crime. Although there's a lot of crime in Albania, there's no doubt that Western Balkans are facing crime, and that is the only thing which is holding them back to join the EU.
Claire, how big a prize then for a country like Albania is EU membership, do you think? I mean, Britain famously didn't want to be in it anymore, but Albania clearly does.
It does, and you can see that there would be benefits. You look at their location, the borders that they have with other countries, and I think it would be very important to join the EU bloc. And it seems that the majority of people in Albania are looking at that as a way to increase productivity, for growth in the economy, And as Dorian has already said, there are enormous amounts of people now visiting for holidays. They want to go and explore the area. And it's one of those sort of underestimated areas of the Balkan states. And I think that you can see the benefits to them. But it was also very interesting with Dorian mentioning language, because when you look at migration, that was the one thing that the previous Conservative government got absolutely incorrect, in my view. Suella Braverman talking about invasions. You had Robert Jenrick saying that we're having free reign on Albanians. We're going to pick them up and take them back. So it's little wonder if you go over to a country like Albania saying, please, let's do a deal together, that all of these things are going to stack up against you. And also the fact you're outside of the EU, the very bloc that Albania wants to get into, they're going to look more favourably upon deals with the likes of Italy. They'll want to do more dealings with France and Germany and looking at the economy. They're not going to have the UK as a priority.
And remember, you can see more discussion and debate on our YouTube channel. Search for Roundtable TRT World. But for now, from me, Enda Brady, and all the team here, goodbye and thank you for watching.